What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the SVR, and also, more importantly, we're going to be taking a look at a poll I ran yesterday on the channel, and the results of the poll were very, very interesting to me. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at the sets that were involved in the poll, and also just some of the community reaction in the comments to that. But because it is Monday, I do want to start off with a little SVR update. Again, if you're in the spreadsheet, you can go look at all the numbers. But for those of you who just want a general brief overview of what's going on, most sets were down this week. So SV Base was down, Paldea Evolved was down, Obsidian Flames, I believe, was actually up a couple dollars over the past 7 days. Twilight as well was up a couple dollars. Paradox was down, Temporal was down, Stellar, Surging, Journey, and Destined, based on the past 7 days, were all down a little bit. I think important things to point out: something like Paldea Evolved is starting to stabilize, I believe, around 350. Sure, you can still find sales or listings on eBay for around 335 USD. I would say maybe the odd box shows up at like 300, but I think that those sell out fairly quickly. I think another thing to point out about the SVR booster boxes is that sets like Paradox Rift and Temporal Forces, although these on TCG Player are going for about $271 and $238 respectively, you can find these both on eBay, lowest listed, for about $200 USD. And I think even the Temporal Forces one, I saw a seller that had 5 boxes at 200 with best offer turned on. So I wouldn't be surprised if people are finding either of these boxes for sub $200 right now, which isn't that far off of MSRP, only about 20% higher than what a lot of people would be hoping for, right? If you go back to January, February this year, everybody was talking about MSRP printed into the ground. I'm only going to pay MSRP, these inflated prices, blah, blah, blah. So here's your opportunity, right? Those people that were talking like that, you can find a couple sets fairly close to that number at this point that are also older. I mean, Paradox Rift, this is going out of rotation in April 2026. Temporal is in the next block, but still older sets from the SV era that are likely never going to get more stock on the market than there is now. So I think that this is a pretty decent buying opportunity. However, the main topic of today's video is going to be Destined Rivals again. And before we get into that, I did want to jump in here and say, if you guys are enjoying the content, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below for the algorithm. It really does help out a ton getting these videos pushed out to more people. Also, if you're looking to take your Pokemon and TCG investing in general more seriously, I do have links to my market spreadsheet at the top of the description. As always, you can use the code Pokemon for 30% off. And also, if you're looking for more support one-on-one, you're really trying to take this seriously and win, I do have links to my consultation calls as well. So thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. But to get into today's main topic, I ran this poll yesterday, which was, which investment would you rather buy? I gave the options of Chilling Reign booster boxes at $410 USD per box, Destined Rivals booster boxes at $410 per box, Silver Tempest booster boxes at $410 per box, or Paldea Evolved booster boxes at $350 per box. Now, as you can see on screen, Destined Rivals was the clear favorite off of 3.7 thousand votes. Destined Rivals was selected by about 50% of votees. Chilling Reign only got 16%, which was in third place. Silver Tempest was in last place with only 14%. And Paldea Evolved, which isn't as surprising as the top selection in terms of percentage, but still 20% of people. So more people would rather buy Paldea at $350 per box than buy Chilling Reign or Silver Tempest at $410. So if I want to look at this a little bit closer, what I would do is I would bring up all the booster boxes. And the reason why I ran this poll is because a lot of these sets are around $410. I think on eBay, you could basically buy the first 3 sets, Destined Rivals or Chilling Silver, for $410 on eBay. And with Paldea, you can definitely buy this box for $350 all day long. So I figured it was fairly accurate. Now, my gut feeling before running the poll was that Destined Rivals was going to win, but I figured it would be fairly close with Destined Rivals and Chilling Reign. I figured that Silver Tempest would be in third place, and then Paldea Evolved would probably be in fourth. That was just my guess. I did not expect Destined to win that much. And just to give you guys a little bit of context here, because I love doing this, we have all the sets here, we have the buy price, and then we're going to be taking a look at the top 1, 5, and 10 values in each of these sets. So Chilling Reign, you guys know, I've always liked this. I thought it was a super deep set. I was buying these boxes for around 220 Canadian, 207. I think I bought a lot of my boxes, and then I bought a few more at like around 250. So it brought my buy cost up a little bit, but I'm a huge fan of this set. I know a lot of people don't like Chilling. It got a massive reprint during the Sword and Shield era. But also outside of that, there aren't a ton of fan favorite Pokemon. I love the Blaziken VMAX alt art. Obviously, Moltres is a fairly popular character. You have a Snorlax gold card in here as well. But outside of those, you have the Shadow Rider Calyrex, which isn't a super popular Pokemon. Slowking, Galarian Slowking, Zeraora V, Galarian Rapidash. You have the Articuno and Zapdos. So not super popular Pokemon, but also not like the least popular ones that you could think of. Ballistia as well is decent. Ice Rider, Calyrex VMAX. And a lot of these cards have value just because the pull rates in Chilling Reign were ridiculous. Chilling Pain is what a lot of people called it. And also, I mean, the artworks are beautiful, so you have to give it that. But a lot of it did have to do with the pull rates. Now, if we go over to Silver Tempest here, the Lugia V up top, $372. Surprisingly, only $1 more than the Blaziken right now, which I think is a bit odd in my opinion. The Rayquaza VMAX is sitting around 120 still, which is up a lot over the past 12 months. Lugia V-Star, Rainbow, third most expensive card, not a great sign. You have a Blaziken in the set as well, around 27, 28 bucks. A gold Lugia V-Star. So in my opinion, I was never a huge fan of Silver Tempest just because I didn't think it had a ton of depth. I definitely undervalued how good of a card this Rayquaza was, or at least how desirable it was going to be. The Lugia I always thought was a top tier alternate art card, one of my favorite from the Sword and Shield era. But outside of those, you really don't have too much going for you in this set. Now, jumping over to Paldea Evolved, obviously you have the Magikarp up top sitting around $250. Definitely nowhere near its all-time high. The Tyranitar has fallen a lot as well. This is down to around $55. I think at its high, we're around, what, 80-ish on that card. The Mousehold as well, down to 51. I think this was a $60, $65 card a couple months ago. Iono sitting around $50. The Raichu holding fairly strong around 50. Tinkatong in there as well. Chuyu, a new rare. You have Fuecoco, Sprigatito, and Meryl. That rounds out your top 10. So again, not the most favorite Pokemon that you could think of, but still Magikarp, Shinji Kanda artwork, definitely a popular one. Tyranitar as well, Raichu is up there. And then you do have some cutesy Pokemon like the Mousehold, like the Marrow, Sprigatito, Fuecoco. These are cards that it makes sense why they're somewhere in that like $20 to $30 range. And then finally, Destined Rivals. I mean, it makes sense why this is the most popular set right now. You have a Team Rocket's Mewtwo EX, a very popular Pokemon. Cynthia's Garchomp, not as popular, but Cynthia is definitely up there in terms of the trainers. Ethan's Ho, everybody likes Ho. Team Rocket's Moltres, again, another Moltres, decently popular Pokemon. Outside of that, you have a Nidoking, not super popular, but it's a Team Rocket's Nidoking. Crobat, same deal. Decent illustrations on those two, by the way. You have a couple Misty's cards in here, the Lapras and the Psyduck being the more expensive one. A gold card, Ethan's Adventure, Trainer SIR. I actually really love that card. I think it's great. So just on a superficial level, if you couldn't see the price tags, it would probably make sense why people would assume Destined Rivals is the most expensive or most popular set. And the data definitely backs it up. When we look at top 10 value, it is the clear winner. Even top 5 value and top 1 value, it's still the clear winner. It's fairly close though with Chilling Reign. We're about $300 off, $260 or something like that in terms of market price. Silver Tempest and Paldea are definitely nowhere near Destined Rivals, but we are talking about a set, right, that is very new. Destined Rivals has been out for what, 6 months at this point, maybe a little bit more than that. It's a quarter of its way through its life cycle, whereas something like Chilling Reign is completely out of print. We're not going to be getting more Chilling Reign, more than likely 99.99% chance or more. Same deal with Silver Tempest. Maybe Pokemon just happens to find like some collection boxes that have Silver Tempest in them, or I don't know, build and battle kits or something they put up on the PC. But for the most part, we're not getting more Silver Tempest. Paldea, same sort of deal. This is going out of rotation next year. Maybe we get a little bit more at Christmas time, but I think at this point, Paldea Evolved is donezo. So I don't really want to give my take on these sets in this video because, everyone kind of just believes what they want to believe, but I was genuinely surprised it would be this high. And I think just in general, at least my investing philosophy, I would rather be buying an older set that's something like 4 years older than Destined Rivals at the same price, especially if it's a set that's fairly similar in terms of chase value. Sure, Destined Rivals, it's definitely a better set than Chilling. I will get on board and happily agree with that, but it's a super new set. There's going to be a lot of reprints, and you have to consider too, when those reprints do happen, we're going to see these card prices come down. So maybe if we do this video in 2 years, Chilling Reign has a higher top 5, top 10 value, maybe even the top hit is more expensive than Destined Rivals. But when I was looking through the comments too, I thought this was really interesting, and normally I will heart comments that I agree with or disagree with. But for this video and this poll, I didn't respond to anyone. I do just want to say though, I read all these comments, so I do appreciate you guys. I do want to read a couple of the top comments though, because I thought it was interesting. This poll highlights how many really, really new people are in the hobby. How can you say you'd buy Destin now for the same price as Chilling or Silver? It's madness. That's something that I would tend to agree with. And again, maybe I'm going to be wrong having that sort of mindset, but a lot of people tended to agree with that comment. And then below it, obviously you can read those replies. Another comment here, 4 upvotes, Sword and Shield is the play. Below that, interesting one here, I'll buy DR after the reprint. That's kind of my philosophy as well. I don't really want to buy DR at around $400 USD. I am definitely banking on a reprint. If that doesn't come, I'm absolutely going to miss out. Maybe I'll buy a few boxes here and there. If we have this conversation in say 12 to 18 months and the box is still around $400, I'll probably start buying a case or two at that point just because it will be much deeper into the print cycle. But that's kind of my philosophy right now. I'm just waiting for a potential reprint to come. And if it does, I will happily pull the trigger on Destined Rivals. Someone below that, Paldea Evolved is my play, 25% down from its high. Low chance of further significant drops, and it's in G block, so very low chance of reprints. Can make similar points with the Sword and Shield boxes, but I've got a high opinion of the SV era for long term. If you want a good, cheaper version of this play, I recommend looking at Paradox Drift. So I think that's interesting too. And a point we didn't really bring up yet in this video that I do want to touch on, I think the opening experience and the amount of packs being ripped do matter when it comes to investing in these sets. So for example, when you listen to people who run rip and ships, they're really familiar with what's going on. They have their finger on the pulse of what's really going on in rip and ship culture. A lot of people don't like opening Fusion Strike. They don't like opening Chilling Reign, even Evolving Skies. These were sets in the Sword and Shield era that didn't have the trainer gallery. So, it kind of seems like there's less hits that you can potentially get out of a pack. Whereas with something like Silver Tempest, you do have that trainer gallery. You have the potential to pull that Rayquaza, this Blaziken, a lot of other super cool cards in the set. Something like Paldea Evolved in the SV era, it's much more enjoyable. You can get more pulls out of each pack. And the same thing goes with Destined Rivals, that obviously it has great chase cards, but being in the SV era, I think it is just a little bit more enjoyable of an opening experience. So I think some people are definitely factoring that in, whereas maybe I'm just a little bit old school. I'm just looking at box price, the top chase cards, and how old the set is. And maybe that's something that we do need to factor in a little bit more. Below this, not gonna lie, they all sound pretty good. I would agree, I don't think any of these are terrible options right now in terms of price. And I did miss one here too. 151 and Destin are the best sets. Even if they get reprinted, they will still hold value just because of easier pulls and nostalgia. These two clear all the other sets. The third best is probably Prismatic, and the nostalgia will be there for that in the future as well. I tend to agree with that as well. Outside the fact that if they do get reprinted, I think we will see a drop in value. I mean, you already see that with Prismatic. Those ETBs have been hit hard this year. Basically every time they've been restocked, we've seen the price pull back. Then after that, it'll start to rise again. We'll get another restock at Sam's Club or Costco, something along those lines. It comes back down. We're seeing that again. And that's something I forgot to mention too. This is kind of a tangent at this point, guys. But with surging, the sales volume was actually down this week a significant amount. It was still very high, around that 240 range. But I think just with the increase of the Dollar General Prismatic ETBs hitting the market for $40, I kind of assume that's where a lot of the dollars are going right now in the hobby. People, if they want to open Prismatic, if you can buy an ETB for like $80, $90, might seem like a better play at this point than picking up surging for around 200 or 220. So I did just want to throw that in there because I do think that that is happening right now. And I think those are all the main comments I wanted to touch on. Many comparisons of DR to Evolving Skies. I think a lot of that is just kind of like people trying to hype up Destined Rivals. I don't think Destined Rivals is anywhere near Evolving Skies. Kind of insane, in my opinion, to even compare those two or put them in the same category. Sure, Destined Rivals is the best booster box set from the Scarlet and Violet era, but to say that it's on par with something like Evolving Skies or even in the same ballpark, I think is a little bit disingenuous, but I can understand why people would try and make that comparison. DR $2,500 box in 5 years, who knows? I mean, maybe, but I just think it's interesting, to put out things like this and get people's opinions. I'm actually going to try and start doing this more, not just because it's a great way to, get engagement, but also I think it's a really good way to challenge our belief systems. If a lot of people disagree with what we're preaching and, talking about on the internet, maybe that's a sign that we should be reconsidering what we believe, right? Or at least challenging our current beliefs more thoroughly. So that's really all I want to get to in this video. If you guys got some value out of it, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like, subscribe to the channel. It does help out a ton. And obviously leave a comment down below letting me know what you guys think about this. If you guys have other comparison polls that you want me to run, you could definitely let me know down there as well. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.